Parking is easy, but you gotta be like at least up to get it. And I was getting tired of people breaking in the car too.
That was happening to you?
They were mad. They were mad. You know, they break in the car and they're mad 'cause there's nothing in there. They're like, man, it's freaking that's aloes, allergy medicine. One time they smashed it, and I was sitting there praying over my car. Like one time I put a Bible on the side and they stopped breaking into it.
Are you serious?
Put the Bible in the Quran just in case. Just in case they have.
Troy Bond has huge balls.
Hello there. Hello there. Welcome to Bonding, young Skywalker. You must learn the ways of the Force if you want to have virginity like I do. Oh, yeah, check that out. Princess Leia and Luke right there, dog. That's my favorite scene in Star Wars. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Actually, we won't because we have a guest on the show today, Mr. Jared Waters, one of my closest friends, and probably the most genuine person in comedy. We are the episodes you're going to be hearing now. We're doing things a little differently. Tori's still going to be around, but she is hosting her own podcast, which everyone should check out, called Tori's Stupid Podcast, available at wherever you listen to podcasts and physical copies at most farmers markets. I'm going to be sitting down Shannon Sharp style with a lot of very funny people and very sad people as well. Tori will still be on. The episodes will be bookended by me. You'll hear me at the top doing this, masturbating. I really tried to get that off mic, but it still picked up. But now I don't have to burp into Tori's face. I could just burp over into the stormtrooper crotch. That's to my left because I am a child and I have a life-size stormtrooper in my bedroom. But it protects me at night, so it works. It's like a dream catcher, except it always misses. Yeah, today we have a guest. We, because you're part of this. You're listening to this. I don't know how. Maybe you're in your car. Maybe you're quote-unquote working. Maybe you're working from home. But wherever you are, believe it or not, I'm inside of you right now. And it's not just me. It's today's guest who I sat down with. And we talked for 2 hours. And it was very hard to edit it down to 1 hour because every part of it was just, if you know Jared Waters, which you hopefully will by the end of this episode, he's been on the show before, but this time I really got to sit down and have an intimate one-on-one. He's a guy who I always talk to at the late hours in the night because we work at comedy clubs, so it'll be like 12, 1 in the morning, all the way up to 3, 4 o'clock in the morning I've talked to that guy. And I call him my pastor because not only is he a great listener, but he gives you advice and it doesn't hit you till like 2-3 days later. Like after we finished recording this the other day, our interview the other day, he sat down and told me a story. And right before I started recording this intro, I realized what advice he was giving me. And he's brilliant. He's funny. The world needs to know who he is. I was happy to sit down with him, and you will be too. Here is Mr. Jared Waters. Thank you for coming on the pod, Mr. Jared Waters. You've seen him on the Tamron Hall show. That's all for formality. I don't think that I've seen anybody sleep in more comedy clubs than you. Jared is like Thomas Edison, where I don't think he's ever gotten a full 8 hours of sleep, but he takes cat naps throughout the day to sustain his hustle ability because on average, I mean, there's not you don't go a day without stand-up, right?
Only vacations I might
Vacation, it's like you just went to Japan, obviously, but like there's not a time where you're doing just one spot. You do, what, 6, 7 on average?
Weekends would be like
weekends
6
are
or 7.
different.
Yeah. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like 3.
You do one in Astoria Park, like my old neighborhood. And
you remember in the pandemic?
Where I did during the pandemic, I did it on a sheet of ice. I was staying. It was the middle of February, and we were just
You came and killed on a sheet of ice.
On a sheet of ice.
Did you have a cigarette too?
Yes, I
did.
You were
smoking a cigarette on some ice.
When clubs opened back up again, you and I got close because we were the only
it was just me and you.
It was just me and you. Everyone was still moved like in their parents' house. We were like, oh yeah, we're here and we're around, and we were doing like 8 nights, 8 shows a night, no, and that even when they had a curfew.
I loved it. I love the pandemic.
It was,
I was like, Troy's open and you close it. Switch it around. I was like, all right.
It's hard for me to go to that club now because since Al died, you know, Al Martin was. He was
father figure to you, you know?
Yeah, Al was genuine about it. Like he would go out of his way to message me on Facebook just to be like, "Hey kid, I'm really proud of all the things that you've done and accomplished here." And the last time I talked to him, it was December 23rd, 2023, the day after my show that you were on, and because he it was sold out. And I said that to flex and also to say that he got my parents into the show.
Oh, yes, you were surprised.
And I was really surprised because I had 30 minutes planning on shitting on them that I immediately had to change, and I was dressed in a smooth criminal outfit. And my dad started heckling me. He said, you look like Michael Jackson, fuck the Joker. And I was like, and he was in a pimp hat. And
yes, he was.
The security guard came down and said, someone named Big Daddy's here to see you. And I said, okay, I got weird fans. 2 minutes later, I saw it was my dad. And I was like, this motherfucker is walking around telling people he's Big Daddy. And as hell I had to say, Al messaged me after that to be like, I'm really proud of you and you have great parents. And I said, thank you for helping me with all of them, and when we were at the funeral, it made me remember why I truly love comedy. There's big stories, there's the Rebel Alliance versus the Empire, and there's the small stories. Han Solo in love with Princess Leia. We love the small stories in life because we are the small stories. We've never blown up a Death Star, but we know what it feels like to be in a small hometown and want to get away from it. And the small stories were there at that funeral that day, and I saw friends that I would never know if it weren't for that man introducing them to me. And I
remember with the funeral because you had a blue suit on and these glasses. So
me?
You had your suit on and these sunglasses, and I looked. I was like, dog, if he had that Michael Jackson way, he would look just like Michael Jackson. Because you had like these cheekbone structures and you're like facing out that way. I was like, doesn't he look just like Michael Jackson?
I was ready to be casted in that movie, dude. I was going to go full Austin Butler. Like I made my own Tyrese Gibbs. You know how Tyrese made his own audition tape for Django? I was ready to make that. He made his own audition tape because he wanted to play Django. I made my own to play Michael. I was going to go full Austin Butler.
Michael knew a lot. He knew behind the curtains.
He wouldn't join their little club. That's the problem.
You could tell he didn't join the club, and they were punishing him for that.
Yeah.
That when we talk about the book that we read about the bodyguards, and for me, it's just sad knowing that somebody so great is just putting all these chains on him. Like you had to literally kill him for you to make money off of him, instead of like living his life at the end. Like at the end,
which is all he wanted to do.
Just live
with his kids.
I feel like they cut us short of seeing him live, you know, that cut us short of seeing like Michael Jackson doing a Vegas run.
I feel like they cut us short of seeing what he wanted to do, which was be behind the camera and do more like he took will.i.am under his wing and just made him weirder. But like he wanted to do that, and he was learning how to take on that mentorship role.
They cheated us out of Michael Jackson sitting down with Joe Rogan or sitting down with somebody talking. He would sit down with Shannon Sharp. Imagine him.
Oh my! So, what are you telling to beat it? What do you mean by that? It's a metaphor.
Come on, you got the belt.
Come on, man. Come on, you ain't gonna tell me you only have 2 no tries. I swear to God, Shannon, don't tease me like that.
But just imagine like the
think
technology
about that.
now. Just like I was mad at like a lot of old comics like Don Rickles. Like no one sat down with him and asked him all these questions. No one made him take off the character and just ask him how he felt about comedy. So it's just like, man, we got cheated out of Michael doing like interviews because everyone had their own. Even the Oprah interview is not that good anymore.
The Oprah interview is like
you're pressing him.
He hated that interview.
He felt like, yo, how disrespectful is this?
And then she turned around and sided with Wade Robson and Jimmy Safechuck, who are now doing the allegations that are leveled against him from leaving Neverland. Even though this Wade Robson guy he was in the Jam video. He was that kid who did a little circle glide. His mom was a stage mom. Then he was in Hollywood a little bit, gets the opportunity to direct Oscar-winning Step Up 2. Then he had a nervous breakdown and couldn't handle it. And then when Michael died...
Michael said in that book, when they said that Michael, when Paris asked him, why can't we go to our house? And he goes, that house is...
What they did to Neverland was a mess, man. I went to go see it in April.
We'll never go back. That's not our home anymore.
They
built that place just for him. Imagine someone just destroying your castle.
He bought it. He bought the ranch and after Thriller. Imagine still living with your parents after Thriller.
Yeah, he was still in his
parents' house. He bought the ranch and then built that all up afterwards. And
Magic Kingdom. It looked just like Magic Kingdom.
They restored it, you know.
I saw it for the movie.
For the movie, yeah, where it's so ironic that the person playing him is Jermaine's son. It's Jafar.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to think about this movie because I recently watched This Is It and I had to turn it off because I was like, this is wrong. He's like dead, high, out of his mind in that movie on opiates, and he had to take something to get him up, something to take him to get him down in the morning, and he's got the sunglasses on. He's skeletal, 5'9", 119, and the estate is weekend at burying him in theaters to still make money off this concert tour. That's kind of how I feel about the movie.
They broke his spirit, man. You could tell at the end they literally broke him. They broke him. It was just sad seeing someone with so much. Dog, he influenced the world. You talk about
everything.
Music. You can talk about how music videos, everything else, especially and I just hate the fact where, like, sometimes cops, we take shots at him, or not we, but some people take shots at him. Like, dog, he was proud to be a black person, man. He hated when people started making fun of him.
It was, I can't imagine what that
probably hurt him.
Feeling is like to be losing the pigmentation of your skin, and you're the most famous person in the world, so you go through, and it's a very rare disease, and it started in 83, so you go through whatever treatment you can, and that was the result of it, and you have to constantly explain to people.
You have to go full because, people are not going to understand. Like, it's not like now. I feel like now we would have accepted him like, oh, he has vitiligo. Yes. Everyone has it
But
now.
it's because of him that we accept it now. He was a trailblazer for everything you see, and the only person who I see nakedly give appreciation to him is Beyonce, and Ariana Grande pays a lot of tribute, and The Weeknd, obviously, Bruno. But everything that we have now is because of him. There wasn't a black artist on MTV before Thriller because they said whites don't want to watch black people on TV.
I'm proud to be black. What are you talking about?
I'm a African American. I'm a proud black African American.
I would have just asked him if he was alive. I was like, then why are your kids? I think.
Well, we know why. What I could tell you about the kids. I know who those kids' fathers is.
Like one of the
Arnold Klein, his dermatologist.
My thing is why?
Because he was so afraid of them looking like Joe or him. Joe fucked him up by telling him how ugly he was.
But that's my thing is just I think Blanket is his.
Blanket's his. You look at pictures of young Blanket and you look at young Michael and you go, that's his. Got the same nose, got the same eyes.
Blanket looks like him. But I would just ask like, dog, that's why people feel like, well, if you didn't like being black, I was like, even though they look like Joe or whatever, dog, man, it's just kids don't look like.
He wanted kids really badly, and Lisa Presley wouldn't.
That gangster out there, he could have had him. He could have raised him.
Well, Lisa Presley wouldn't give him kids, and because she was like, I'm Elvis's daughter, and I already have celebrity kids. There's no way I'm doing that with you. And then they got divorced, and Arnold Klein, his dermatologist assistant, Debbie Rowe, is who he had the kids with, and we still don't know who Blanket's mother is to this day. Blanket looks like him. Yes, I would say he used his sperm for Blanket, and Debbie Rowe could be the mother there.
But there's like another kid that's in like
Omar Teddy, who
he's in Denmark or something like that.
Is there?
There's a Norwegian kid or something, and Joe before he dies like, yeah, that's Michael's boy.
Oh my God!
Like, that's Mike. That's Michael's boy.
I don't think that he would have kids all over the world from fucking groupies because of a story I read in this biography about him where Joe bought him a sex worker, and he was like, "You gonna learn today, boy," and then he was like, "You ain't coming out this room until it's over," and then the two of them were in the room. Joe, this was at like 11 at night. Joe comes in the room at 7 in the morning, and she's teaching him makeup tricks. It's like when Tony Soprano walks in and sees AJ on the computer laughing, and it's like, I don't think...
We're having a great time, Joseph.
Come here, let's. There's a word called contouring. And I think it was Gladys Knight who said, when she was talking about his death, she said, look what we did.
Dog, it's crazy how like a 5-year-old knows Michael Jackson. So I like today I was playing the Wiz like that, and it's that's Michael Jackson. It's like, how you know about? That's him right there. That's him. So it's just like you. There's no way to stop the influence, and just we got cheated out of movies that he could have been in. We got cheated out of a lot of things. I could see him like being in like Star Wars.
He was
like,
supposed to be Jar Jar.
That'd have been hilarious.
But George Lucas said you're too famous for that part. I'm sorry,
would've
but he was
been
supposed to be
hilarious.
it. Yeah,
He was in Men in Black.
He was in
Ed,
I could be
Ed.
Agent M. He was in Men in Black because he was supposed to be in Spider-Man, and they cheated him out of that, and
Like,
so they put him in there.
Freaking, he could have been in Hook. Robin Williams.
Oh
That's my favorite movie of all
God.
time. So I'm always trying to figure out how because I feel like Robin Williams played that role to the best.
He could have been Captain Hook in that movie.
No, he was going to be Peter.
Really?
He was supposed to be Peter. Then everything else.
Oh, that's
Spielberg-
right. Yeah.
Spielberg
Oh my
switched
God,
him.
that would have been the perfect era
So
for
I
him.
was just wondering, like, because Robin Williams is so quick and so witty, how would it be with Michael Jackson? That's my favorite movie. When I lived in the
Hook?
Netherlands, Hook. I remember I used to tell chicks, I was like, "Are you a famous Black American?" I was like, "Yeah, I was in Hook." Really? Yeah, I was in Hook. I would quote all those real like, "Don't listen to that brainless fungus and that stinking fairy. I got pants on. I'm the pan now. You're gonna take it away from me, Rufio? If Tink believes, maybe he is." You gonna follow this drooler or the Capitan Hook?
What was
The little black kid's like, and who them kids, if he ain't Peter Pan, huh? He don't show look happy, her. They're like, yeah, give him a chance.
How long did you live in the Netherlands for?
3, 4 years. So Europe and Asia, I was there for maybe 10 years of my life.
How old were you?
9 years. 9/11, I was from 12 to 17.
This was
to
during
18.
9/11?
I mean, I was in Tokyo one time, 9/11 hit.
So you were cleared of all charges. It wasn't him. He was out fighting Godzilla.
When 9/11 hit, I remember it happened to us at night.
Right.
So I remember my mother waking up, and I was like, what happened? She goes, there's a terrorist attack. I said, what's that? And then she was telling us they crashed into the buildings, but we didn't live in America. I was like, what buildings? So we saw it, and we had to relive everything else because we were 2 weeks behind. So we watched that. And I remember the Air Force Base was locked down. Everybody was rolling off Humvees and M16s and stuff.
yeah.
So they locked us down because we were Americans. So I've been out there, and then I was in the Netherlands. And I remember when Michael Jackson died when we were in the Netherlands, and this Dutch dude was crying. Our neighbor, he was crying. I was like, what's wrong? What happened? And he's just there crying. He's like, the Thriller is gone. I was like, the Thriller? Who? What Thriller's gone? Then I ran inside, and my mom goes, he's gone. I was like, what do you mean, Michael? And then when I saw that freaking funeral, when Paris started talking.
When Paris started
that
talking,
effed
I
me
lost
up.
it.
And
I
Janet-
didn't cry the whole
Janet
funeral.
grabbed her head. Like,
Speak up, baby. I didn't cry that whole funeral. I almost
Daddy.
cried when Usher sang, but then when she said Daddy was the best
Daddy
father,
was the best father.
lost it. And
That effed me
we
up,
almost killed that girl the way that we killed Michael. She went through it. Leave
like
them damn kids alone.
She's like a director or something like that. Or
Whatever she is, I hope she's doing it behind the scenes and doing. I just hope she's doing exactly what she wants to do because Michael would never have wanted their faces out there the way they were.
Yeah.
And
Blanket has a YouTube channel where he reacts to Star Wars videos.
does he?
Yeah. I think Catherine got mad, took him off YouTube. He's like, well, it was like a lightsaber, yeah. They took him off.
How do you grow up normal as those kids? I would be very uncomfortable around them because I would have such a hard time not bringing up their
I
father.
want the tapes to be released. I want to see Michael's home videos.
You could see him, the private home
when
movies.
He's dancing to a.
That's him right
That's
there.
Michael
That's
right
the
there.
Holy
It's like-
Spirit.
Michael's like-
You could see he put out Michael Jackson's private home movies after.
I saw the one where he's dancing like R. Kelly's remix to
Yeah,
Ignition.
not the best look for him.
He
No,
said dancing remix
R.
remix to
R.
Ignition.
Kelly wrote "You Are Not Alone" and then gave it to Michael, and then Michael found out that it was plagiarized, and Michael rewrote all of it.
Who'd R. Kelly plagiarize?
I don't know, but I just read. I was reading up on the song because that's my. I come home from a show and nobody's home. That's my shit. Yeah, R. Kelly plagiarized it, and then so Michael just rewrote the entire song and told his wife to get naked and be in the video.
Michael died in 2000
June 25th, 2009.
2009. When did Phantom of the Menace come out?
May something 1999.
What's up, brother? How are you? It came out in what year?
May 99.
99. They should have put him in the movie.
Yeah, they wanted him. He wanted to be Jar Jar, and George Lucas was open to the idea of it, but he was like, "You're too famous." You know what's interesting about George Lucas? It made me think of us as creatives. I was watching the documentary of behind the scenes of him making it, and he sat down to write Phantom Menace in 1994, and he was writing for 20 minutes, then immediately turns on classic movies, and he's just shaking his head going, how did they do it? And I was like, I know exactly how you feel, dog. Like, I'll be trying to write, and then I'll be let me put on an episode of Seinfeld, and then I'll just be like, God, it's perfect. How do you come up? There's something to be said for visionaries. George Lucas is a visionary. Michael was a visionary. I would say Kanye was visionary. But I mean, as I get older, I'm aged out of Kanye's legacy. But we're also living through the as adults, Kanye's 2005 Michael era.
That's what I'm saying. You can see how it's all repeating.
Yeah.
But George, I feel like they took my favorite one of the prequels is 3.
Is Revenge of the Sith?
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. Why?
Oh man,
it's the most action-packed one.
Most action-packed one, but I think it's like that time in your life where I think I remember it was 2005 when it came out.
May 19th, May 19th, 2005.
I would say it reminds me of an ex. You know, I was leaving Japan, going to the Netherlands. I broke up with my girl at the time. And because I was just embracing living in the Netherlands, I was like, man, I was just upset and just mad, right? But I didn't, you know, when you don't want to break up, but you just break up because it is. And I remember I was at a party. I was at a party, and that whole scene of just like, it's over, Anakin. She has the high ground.
I have the high ground. You underestimate my power.
Like, when it's over, and you're still trying. I was at a party one time. I'm not gonna say. We'll bleep out her name. I was at a party one time, and I was like, we used to like rent hotels.
Yeah.
Called TLF, temporary lodging facilities, but nobody was abandoned, so we would just rave inside of them. So I got inside there, like the hotel's open, and the elevator opens, and I'm just there. And she goes, nope, and walks down the stairs. And I take the elevator back down, and then we meet back again. And then she's like, I don't want to talk to you. I said, let's talk. And I remember my boys holding me back, and I just remember, it's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. And I was like, you turned her against me.
You have done that yourself. Your cringe and your lust for pussy have already done that. You have allowed this dark pussy to twist your mind until now you have become the very desperate thing you swore to destroy. Don't lecture me, Obi-Wan. I do not fear the dark side as you do.
That turn, the turn of Anakin on that end.
Well, that's the thing I don't like. It's too quick.
It was so quick, but
it should have been 2 movies.
It was just like
Attack of the Clones is his turn to Darth Vader.
I feel like George was just like he was cramming a lot in the end, but I feel like it should have been like 3 hours long.
There's a 4-hour cut of the movie, and it should have been a 2-parter. But George and his trilogies, he was very, very hell-bent on it. The thing about Revenge of the Sith is it's most people's favorite prequel movie because from start to finish, it's action. The only one that I could compare it to is Empire Strikes Back because every part of Empire Strikes Back, every scene works. Every scene needs to be there. Every scene in Revenge of the Sith works almost to a fault because it's so quick. You know, like he falls to the dark side an hour into the movie. Right. Now, granted, there are time lapses in the movie that we are not informed of as an audience, like in Empire Strikes Back. Han is fleeing from the Empire for weeks, and Luke is on Dagobah with Yoda for weeks. Han doesn't have hyperdrive, so that would explain why it took him so long to get to Bespin. Revenge of the Sith's problem that I say Attack of the Clones is better is my favorite of the prequels because Revenge of the Sith had to get to the point where Anakin turns to Darth Vader, he's in the suit, and Luke and Leia are separated. Attack of the Clones, his fall to Darth Vader starts when his mother dies.
Boy, when he went over there to
the Tusken camp, I went to see the Phantom Menace. I remember that so vividly. Because that scene, I went to go see Phantom Menace a couple of weeks ago when it was released in theaters, and my mom, she's always called me Annie. I've always called her Shmi because that's our little thing. And when Anakin is about to go leave to become a Jedi, and then he turns around and runs to his mother and says, "I can't do it, Mom. I just can't do it." And she goes, "You can't stop the change any more than you could stop the suns from setting." And he goes, "You ever gonna see her? Am I ever gonna see you again?" And she says, "What does your heart tell you?" He says, "I hope so, yes." And she says, "Then we will see each other again." And then she tells him, "Go and don't look back." That's exactly what I had with my mom when I left to go do comedy. And that's another small story thing, right? Like, a big story. We're focused on the small story here. And that the Jedi Council immediately picks up on it. The only time Yoda was right was in that movie, was when he goes, I sense much fear in you. I don't
give a fuck about how cold you are. I do not. Fear your mother, you do. Simp over a woman, you will.
And then at the end of the movie, he goes,
Agree with you to train the boy. I do not. The chosen one he may be. Grave danger I sense in his training. Your apprentice, Skywalker, will be.
even though he said probably 50 times, yo, he gonna kill a bunch of dudes. He told us. My dad had a bumper sticker that said Yoda was right. And so that's why I say Attack of the Clones is the, if you love Darth Vader, or if you love the story of Darth Vader, that's the biggest one. Revenge of the Sith is the most beautiful. I mean,
I thought Attack of the Clones was.
It's boring, and
no, it's not boring, but it was romantic.
It's a romantic movie.
I love the romantic mood. Like when it's 3:00 in the morning, I'll play that because I was like, yo, Padme really, pulled Padme
from the moment I met you all those years ago.
When they were just isolated, he sitting at a little rat tail braid.
Yeah, he pulled her after telling her he committed genocide. That's when he pulled her. He was like, not just the men, but the women and the children too. And she's like, my pussy wet. You know, and she was like, she doesn't. Anakin, please. When he told her he killed the Kid Tusken Raiders in 2. Then in 3, she all of a sudden is surprised when he's like, Obi-Wan told me you killed younglings. You're turning into the man I don't know you anymore, bitch. I'm the same person I was right before this war started.
We have what did Obi-Wan say after he choked her?
Let her go, Anakin. Let her go.
Obi-Wan.
And then, because she didn't know Obi-Wan was on the ship. There's a CGI scene of him when she gets on the ship. It's a wide shot. He's hiding underneath the ramp.
But when he sees it, when Anakin,
he's standing there in the robe. Oh, I would lose it too. You know, that's why Ron Goldman died. That's honestly what happened. OJ's in a thing with Nicole. Then he's Obi-Wan come to return her. Or his son. Yeah, what do you think about that? I love that theory. I love it. Nothing pisses white women off more than when you mention the OJ son theory.
People get mad, especially at parties. That's a party.
That's a great party conversation.
The coroner said that
yes,
the way they were killed, that the OJ's body couldn't do it because OJ, he was a football player that didn't have proper equipment, everything else. So he was like ragged.
He was messed up. He had this arthritis.
Arthritis. His knees was bad. And his son was arrested a couple times for like endangering.
He had anger issues.
His son was arrested for
Mommy
like
issues.
pulling a knife on everything. I think that his son probably got mad, killed her, and OJ protected his son and drove off and gave him like time. See there, look at that. You know what I'm saying? It's coming out now. It's coming out now. I think it was a 2-man job. Or Chris Rock said, he's either OJ killed her or OJ knows a nigga who did it. And I couldn't agree. Yeah. And I think he knows who did it. And he was protecting his son. He's protecting his black kids. He protected all the dark-skinned ones.
The only black people he cared about.
Yeah.
I think what happened, because he had mommy issues, and the story is that night, they went to dinner, and last minute, Nicole didn't invite OJ to dinner. And his son was really mad at that, and she left her glasses at the restaurant. That's why Ron Goldman was at the house. He was there giving her back the glasses in the envelope because they were also friends. And I think, because I know what mommy issues looks like. I might have them myself. I definitely have daddy issues. That's all Star Wars is. That's why I love it so much. That's why I love Michael. I remember learning at 10 years old, watching Michael, looking at him being like, that motherfucker just like me. I wasn't in the studio. I was at the dojo. That was my version. I think...
Pick up these towels.
That's really what it was. I didn't get hit with a bell. I got hit with a bamboo stick in the legs. Yeah, I got it the worst. Troy, it was, yeah, that's exactly what it was. And the way Michael said, Marlon got it the worst. My brother Logan got it because he was so slow. My theory is OJ's son was mad that Nicole didn't invite dad to dinner. Starts cutting her up. And then Ron Goldman shows up because the neighbors reported to the police that at 10:15 they heard somebody shout, hey, 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 3 times as a gate closed. So that sounds to me like that's when he showed up to give her the glasses, and he was trying to stop him from slicing up Nicole. Maybe he wasn't even slicing her. Maybe he was in a physical confrontation with her. Then he sees the two of them, and then that's why it was such a violent killing. As a young kid who had mental issues that weren't necessarily looked after, I could see how that could happen. But we all know he did it. We all know OJ did
I think
it.
he was there. Do
you really think his son did it?
I think his son did it.
Really?
To be so young, I think, dog, those old football players, I know a lot of they can't move. Freaking Jerome Bettis takes 2 hours to get out of the bed.
Look at how Muhammad Ali ended up.
Yeah, look how OJ was playing football when they had no pads.
No pads
no knee
at
pads,
all.
no anything else. They had that little chicken strip across their mask.
Yeah, I watched that video in the Made in America doc.
See him like walking, he's always walking
yeah.
like this.
Johnny Cochran told him not to put on take his arthritis medication for 2 weeks so the gloves wouldn't fit.
So it could flare up. Okay, so you said, are you a mama's boy or what? Which one? You say you got mommy and daddy issues, so what would you say?
I thought, well, I know I had mommy issues, but I resolved them. My mommy issues were because I had a tough dad growing up. My dad and I tightened up, but he was very
Strict.
He was strict. And I was very mad at my mom for years, not knowing that I was mad at her because I felt like she wasn't there to protect me, and it was really because she was out working so we could have a home. So my issues there stemmed from that feeling. That's, one of Maslow's hierarchy of needs thing. I never felt the protection, and I had daddy issues because him and I we were so much alike, and we never. He had high hopes for me, named me after him, and we grew up in a karate school. I'm a junior, yeah. And now he calls me every day. Now that's my dog,
Do you think because you bear his name that he was just, and you're the first child, right? Because
I was
look
first.
younger than your brothers.
Yeah, I take better care of my skin. They don't have to be on camera as much as I do.
There's something about that first child, they get the grunt of everything.
He was like, in this world, there are warriors and there are wimps. And my definition of warrior through his mind, because you got to remember, I grew up not only in a karate school, but around amateur pro wrestling, too. So I saw guys doing grams of blow and then go up, and then Brutus the Barber Beefcake would be what do they call that? Clotheslining Jimmy Snuka. And I'm 5 years old. And then we're driving back listening to Richard Pryor albums. So like my idea of masculinity was it was flawed, and it was twisted, and it was framed, and it wasn't until I was an adult.
And you saw it as art, too.
I saw it as art, and I saw it as cool.
You saw it behind the scenes, too. So
That's very true. I never thought about that.
Art. You were watching literally art in front of you.
Yeah.
It kind of morphed you.
It definitely did.
So like you were watching art. You were watching people take the mask off. You were watching characters become real people.
I didn't know I was going to be a comedian until I was 17, but when I was 4, I knew I wanted to be famous.
Just imagine, like, you saw Jimmy Snuka. Just imagine you saw everyone. You saw your dad as an artist.
My dad was the coolest guy in the world to me, and I was terrified of him. I never knew when he was going to be my dad or my demon, And now we're so tight, and I've forgiven him completely for all of it because it costs way more to hold on than it does to let go. And also there's no point in holding on to any of that unless you want to play yourself as a victim.
You can see, like, I'm always just noticing things. I'm a very observant person. Like when, like
the man who understands every pop culture reference I've ever thrown at him of all time ever. No,
me and my brother had to be like this because we moved around a lot the most.
Yeah.
So it's like every time we go, like every 3 years we're bouncing around. So like when kids try to F us up, I just had my brother. So when I was looking at you on stage, I was looking how happy your dad was.
You thought he was happy?
Yeah, he was laughing. Even though it hurts, it hurts to know that you're showing a mirror of your family, but it's just like that hurt makes Troy Bond. Does that make sense?
100%, yeah.
And I could tell people in the crowd, like I don't know if you see it, but I watch people, and I'll be talking to people and stuff like that, and I remember this girl telling me she had issues with her family. She relates to you so much. Then we were in Tampa. I was talking to a chick like that. I was like, oh, how do you know Troy? I was like, we're comics in New York. And she goes, oh, the story's about his father, the story about his family. It's about me. So I feel like the more you open up, more people are gravitating towards you.
That's what I tell everybody and who's trying to make it in comedy. And because
some people don't have those stories, though. Some people don't have that. Like me and my family. Like my dad was very strict, but I'm trying to catch up with the man he was because he provided for everybody.
Exactly.
He provided for, like when he was my age, he had 4 kids. He freaking was taking us all around. And I was like, I'm not doing, me and my lady were like, we're middle class, upper middle class. We do things. But I was like, man, my dad was doing all this at like
You never went to
25.
bed hungry? You never went to bed
Never went
without
to bed
medicine?
hungry, never everything else. And I feel bad now as an adult talking to my dad, like, dang, I could have got you in trouble. I was on the base wilding out. I was on
Like
the
what?
base.
What'd you do?
Dog, I remember we got in trouble. And one of my boys,
Because you had to grow up on army bases,
yeah,
right?
but we were like off the base, terrorizing people off the base, fighting in Japanese clubs.
Are you responsible for the Iran Contras?
We were just. I remember one time this guy called my dad and goes, "I fired your son 3 times a day." I was doing community service. I got in trouble. I got in trouble off base. So he first.
Man, how the hell you get fired on your day off 3 times in one day?
I was fired every day. I got fired from community service. He asked me to cut up chickens. And this guy asked me to cut up chickens, and then he fired me from that. Then the last job, I was at like a PX, like a Walmart for like a base, and I was there for like weeks doing it. And then he asked me to cut up watermelons. He goes, "If they don't look nice, throw them away." I was like, even though I'm from the South, I didn't know what a good watermelon looked like, so I was like, this one's yellow, throw it away. But they just happened to be Japanese yellow watermelons. I threw 50 away, and I remember him calling my dad and like scolding me about his son.
There are 2 levels of racism there. 1, the Japanese watermelons are yellow. 2, the fact I thought you were gonna quit because you didn't want to cut up watermelons.
I was quitting because I didn't even quit. They fired me because of that. So I remember like when we get in trouble on base, my dad had to stand before the commander about us. So I was like,
did you get ass beat for that?
yeah, we got. I remember my dad. I remember one time me and my brother got out of this thing, and my dad brought us to the house and goes, "I know what you told the police, but this ain't what you're gonna tell me." My dad beat us out of a confession. One time I got in trouble for. I was just hustling, trying to make money, and I made all these like magazines of me like posing, and I was off base selling them. Then my dad was like, "What the?" And I wouldn't tell my dad where I did it, so he brought me to a professional, like people who interrogate terrorists. He brought me inside that because they worked for his comm squadron, and they interviewed me for like an hour to break me down.
And then Dick Cheney came in to waterboard you.
I didn't snitch at all, but my dad.
You didn't? You didn't fold?
I didn't fold at all. He was
You got ice in your veins, dog.
I've been through it so many times. It's like I take full responsibility. And the guy told my dad, like, I give him credit. He did that, but my dad just broke me down. My dad just knew me.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because we grew up completely different. He's a country boy from the South, and we're like international players.
But you would strike me as somebody who grew up in the South. Do you think that's genetic? Do you think that comes from your parents' DNA into you?
They raised us like yes,
like
man,
the
no,
Southern,
man, everything else. So it was just like my dad. I was like, hey, man, I don't know. I'm not your man. I'm your dad. It's sir to me.
Yeah.
Sir.
Did you have to call him sir? I had to call mine sensei.
No, sir. I remember one time my mom was like, me and my brother started tussling. We went through a glass table. You just hear my mom, Esau! Started screaming my dad's name. And my dad's like, oh, I gotta go home. And I remember one time my dad protected me. I remember sometime my dad, I was allergic to seafood, and this teacher, my dad told her before school, Jared can't feed the goldfish. He told her that, but she never told me. So my dad was gone like Kuwait, and I was like wondering as a kid, like, why can't I feed this goldfish? Everyone gets a chance. She goes, if you're a good boy, maybe you can feed the goldfish.
She said that to you, knowing that you couldn't feed him?
And I was so mad. I just took all the fish and food and dumped it in the tank. So then she I guess she just knew that I did it. So
Finding Nemo's insulin.
She made the whole class turn around. It's like, where's our goldfish? Like, ask Jared what happened to the fish. And I remember my class going, why'd you kill the fish, you fish killer?
It's
and
racist.
I was like, I'll kill the fish and I'll kill more if you bring them. Then they brought me to the counselor.
You sound like the Joker. I'll kill the fish, and I'll kill more if you bring them, until Batman takes off his mask and lets me fill a goldfish.
No one could bring goldfish for a while, and I was killing them. Then my
dad, they didn't have a hamster.
They finally called my dad, and my dad came to the school. Was like, you don't got enough money to be killing these people's goldfish. You don't got no
what
job.
What do goldfish cost?
We had to go. We didn't know how to find goldfish, so me and my dad had to go.
Oh yeah, Kuwait.
We had to go find goldfish. And then I remember my dad told her, he goes, why are you killing these goldfish? Like, she won't let me feed them. And my dad goes, I told her you're not allowed to feed the goldfish. And I remember him marching down there with his he was a captain at the time. And I remember he just had my back. So, like, it's.
Isn't it scary when your dad is at school?
Yeah.
My dad came to pick me up from school one time in his life, and it was my senior year, and I was in the middle of choir. We had in the it's like 180 kids in the class. They have you in an arch, and they do the intercom. Mr. Peterson, yes. Can you have Troy Vaughn come to the office, please? His father's here. And he goes, yep, he's coming. And I go, why is my father here? Mind you, we're not talking at this point. This is my senior year. We haven't talked to him. The last thing my dad said was, you're your mother's problem now. That was 6 months prior when I auditioned for America's Got Talent at 17 because I thought I was, everything in this world. And so anyway, my dad comes to pick me up, and I leave the choir room, walking down the hallway, and my dad is standing there like Darth Vader in the Rogue One scene. I just see him in the hallway, and I go, oh my God, somebody's either dead or I'm about to be. And then he comes in my guidance counselor's office, she starts telling him about, because it's like May, so I'm supposed to be thinking about my future, and I had a 1.0 GPA, so she's telling me about...
School?
In high school? Oh, yeah, I was a horrible student. Because I gave up by that point to fully do comedy, you know?
Okay. Oh, yeah,
and I didn't get into reading until I was an adult because I realized how much I didn't know, and I got very excited about books because I was like, oh, there's information that they hid in here. And at that time, I just wasn't interested because I was on crack until my senior year, and then I started doing comedy. So, like, my focus was elsewhere. Anyway, my dad takes us from the school to the car. I sit behind the driver's seat. So, if he beats my ass, he's taking us both down. He doesn't say, the only thing he says to me from the car ride to school to home is, you know exactly why I picked you up. And I said, no. And I had like 50 ideas of what he could have found out. They didn't know I was on crack at the time. And he was like, well, then, you're dumber than I thought you even were. Then I was like, oh, God damn it. What could this really be? Then I come inside. My mom is crying. And when your mom is like crying, that's your dad's responsibility to be the toughest, to be the John Amos from Good Times dad. And he just takes my weed bowl out of his pocket and puts it down on the table. And I go, you brought that to school? That was in your pocket the whole time?
Smoking dope?
Yeah. And, that was ironically the thing that brought us back together. That was weed.
It's crazy how, not crazy, but just seeing how you and your dad like morphed together. My dad was always a good dad, but the thing was I had more shame because they were religious, so I couldn't tell my parents what I was doing because I knew they wouldn't approve of what I was doing. And it was like I love my mother. Like my mother doesn't know. My mother learns about me through my stand-up.
Right.
She learns everything about
What's
me.
that like?
Stand up. So sometimes she'll call me. It's like she told me before, like since I was like 16, I told my parents to do stand up. So mom, we were all like, if you cuss on stage, I'll never come to a show. If Sinbad doesn't cuss, don't you cuss on stage.
Yeah, look how great his career is.
And then she'll see like a clip on Facebook like, you said titty. You're saying titties?
It's so funny when you say titty.
You said pussy. You said pussy.
I love, you really don't cuss, but when you say titty.
She's like, she goes, that's pseudo cursing. But like my mom is like, I remember when my brother got caught. My brother, he lost his virginity early, but when my brother got caught having sex, I remember that it shook the whole house. It was hilarious because he was about to go to
him
college.
having sex or the reaction?
It was the reaction because he didn't get caught physically in the act. He was banging the pastor's daughter, and the pastor called my parents, and goes, "We've been beating her for a while, and she finally confessed that that was my brother." So
me, my wife, and my girlfriend are all very upset about your son's action.
My brother denies it. My brother's like, I don't know, whatever. I didn't do it. So he finally he's about to go. So he confesses. And then my mom asked him about other chicks. And he started going through the Rolodex. He goes, yeah, that one. Mom starts
How
crying.
old was he?
He was 18, going to college.
18, he had a Rolodex.
Yeah, but we were
or you're traveling
players.
And you're black and you're going to these countries. Not many black men.
Like, so she's like, "What about in Japan? Did you lose it in Japan?" And then he's like listing out girlfriends. So my mom was crying.
Mom, Oppenheimer wouldn't only bond.
My mom's like, "I prayed to God that you boys would never be sexually active until you're married." And then I remember my mom asking my dad asking my brother, "So is Jared having sex too?" And my brother, I was like, please don't snitch on me. Please don't snitch. And my brother goes, I don't know what Jared does. I was like, your
brother never ratted you out, right?
Never ratted me out.
Mine either.
But my dad was like, well, if Mayo's doing it, I know Jared's doing it too.
My dad.
But it was just like, they didn't understand. They were from the South, so they didn't understand.
What part of the South, by the way?
They're from North Carolina.
So are my grandparents, Gatesville County.
The North Carolina, so we're like the international waters where we bounce around. So my thing is like, they didn't understand. Like, we just lived a life that they didn't live before. I said, dog, I've been around the most beautifulest women on the planet. My mother's never talking about sex. At one time when she met my wife for the first time, she looks at her and goes, wrap it up. I said, what did you just say to me? She goes, I had a dream that y'all had a baby boy. She said, I was like, what are you talking about? She met Lady and was like,
When she met your wife?
When I brought my wife to the house, when we were dating at the time, and my mom
She
sees
said,
her and
wrap
was
it
like,
up.
she goes, you better wrap it up. And I was like, what did you just say to me? Even like the sex talk with my dad. This is how my dad dropped me off at college, because he's very quiet.
At college, he gives you the sex
He
talk?
goes, he's sitting there and goes, well, you got your TV, you got a remote, TV set up, don't have a baby. All right, I'm going to get up with you later, and like left. And then we like hugged it out and we left. And I remember my mom crying before I was catching a plane going to college in North Carolina. She was like, I said, what's wrong? Is there somebody sick? She's like, oh, you're leaving. And I was like, yeah, but it doesn't matter because I moved around so it didn't affect me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, Mom, I want to tell my mother. I was like, dog, I lived a life. My mom would call me and goes, Jared, she goes, listen up. You better bring your black butt home in 13 minutes or I'm going to beat you. And I was like, I'm in Germany right now. I'm 4 hours away. There's no chance of me coming home. I'm in a whole nother country.
I don't give a Frankfurt. Do you think growing up in so many different places has made you emotionally cut off from certain things, or it's made you more in touch with your humanity for all things because you've seen so many different cultures and were exposed to so much at such a young age that's ingrained in your DNA?
Both.
Really? In different areas, right?
Correct. I could be very cold. Like sometimes, I'm very independent, so I don't need anyone. So like when me and my lady went to Egypt, I was like, I went by myself. She said, really, what'd you do? I was like, I figured it out. So I'm used to like doing things by myself, but like I get more emotional around my friends around the world because one of my best friends, he was murdered. He got shot in the back of his head. Right.
How old were you?
23.
It's rough losing. That's how old I was when I lost my first friend too. It's rough losing a friend at that age.
So when we all graduated high school, he had the hardest time adjusting back to America because because we were all spread around the world.
He was a military kid too.
Military kid. He was in Florida. Then we were in Florida. Then he would move to North. He was just banging all the chicks we went to high school with and just living with them. But he was like a con artist. That was my boy, but he would just like and stuff.
Of course.
And then he like crushed his hip. He got joined the military, crushed his hip. He got kicked out of the military, and he was just having a rough time. And the whole time he kept saying, "Let's get the gang back together." And I was like, "Dog, what we lived in was a fantasy.
Yeah,
it wasn't real." Until I realized when he died, like, no, we were the X-Men. We were just I was in a place where I had other mutants that I could agree with. So like I remember he got killed in South Carolina.
That's a great analogy.
That's how I feel now. So. Dog, I can't. Long story short, so when he passed away, his funeral, everybody came together, and I didn't cry at all. I was good until I ran into someone that I was in Japan with. Her name was Tiffany Lyde, and when she hugged me, every emotion that I had just freaking fell out. Like I wouldn't cry at all, sitting there next to his kid, and then I was like, oh, this moment that I have is just something I shouldn't be hiding. I should be embracing.
You know when I felt that? When we were sitting next to each other at Al Martin's funeral. We sat next to each other with all the other comics we knew. We almost like were an audience to everybody we knew was sitting in front of us. And I felt that same exact way because I was holding it back for most of the time until Al's brother spoke. And the last thing he said in his eulogy was, we talked every day, sometimes twice. What am I supposed to do now? And I looked, I caught you out of the corner of my eye, and I saw all the comics in front, and Veronica Mosey, who was like a mom to me coming up, was in back, and I that's when I let it out. Like I lost it out of sorrow for losing a mentor that I'm never going to see again. Correct. But then the tears continued to flow when I realized I'm going to have all of you guys in my life because of him again. And you were talking about showing personality, and with you, all you need is for more people to know who you are, because once they do, they're going to be so drawn to you the way they are, the way you said they were to me about learning about family, right? Like you bring yourself on stage. The Jared on stage is the Jared off stage. Thanks. You know, the best comics are that. You remind me of Pryor in many ways, minus the whorehouse, the cocaine, but you would look dope as hell in a red suit.
I used to live near a courthouse, for real.
Did you really? My great-grandmother ran one.
I remember I knocked on the door. I was like, y'all need any toilet paper? I was like, get out of here.
Mom, can we stop off, get some pussy? We got pussy at home.
It's just crazy knowing that I think I learned peace being in like the Netherlands because North Carolina, Florida, it was just like I was dealing with like racist stuff, like racism.
Yeah.
So then when I got out, I was just like I started seeing the world where I was like, oh, people love us out here.
That's how I felt too. Like touring, I feel like I am more in touch with humanity more than I've ever been in my life because I've traveled all across the country. And when you travel this country, most Americans don't travel to other countries. I don't even think my parents have a passport because every state is a different country, but it's the through line is all the same. It's all the same strip malls. It's all the same Chick-fil-A's, the whatevers. It kind of makes you disgusted. But the environment that surrounds it, like San Antonio, Texas, my hotel that was across the street across from the hotel, there was a Chick-fil-A, a diner, and a TJ Maxx, right? None of that particularly special, but the environment of San Antonio was, and the desert, and the people, and the shows were different, and I talked about two things that you don't talk about in the South: religion and Jesus. I did both of those bits, and they crushed because of I wasn't going to them. You're stupid for believing in this. I was talking to them as a person, as a world traveler, like you are. Like that's why you're such a good comic. I think one of the things that is most impressive about you is you could mention a random country when you're talking. You're like, yeah, the other day, me and my lady, we was walking through Guam, and someone go, woo, and you're like, you know Guam, Nicaragua, shout out, love you very much, miss, thank you. Like I've never watched you struggle with a crowd externally. Internally, we always are, but externally, you are not struggling with crowds because you have moved around so much and you know your place in the world and you know how to talk to people. And every single person that I've talked to that knows you says the same thing about you, which is Jared Waters is the most genuine person I know because I've seen in private, I've heard you talk. I remember one time you came up to me, and I'll leave, we'll end after I say this, but I remember one time you came up to me at the club and you were like, yeah, I just left this other club and I watched her bomb, dog, for 20 minutes. She bombed for 20 whole minutes, Troy. You ain't got to worry about why that club don't book you anymore. 20 minutes they booked her, and then they put her on the second show after. I got to go back up and follow her. And that was the closest I ever heard you talking shit about anyone. And you have the most genuine heart of any comedian I've ever met on the planet. And beside that, you're a good friend.
I think it's like this, dog. I think that just knowing that, like bouncing around. I think for me, I met people, even though I was on a different base, I met people from Chicago, Florida, everybody else. So all my friends are from different states, but we all met like this. So I know a little bit about everything because I feel like the first thing you got to ask a person, where are you from? How did you get here? And once you start listening to somebody's story, you're like, okay, that's something I just picked up a piece of everything else. And what I like about you is that, and I tell people all the time, I was like, when people come to Tampa, Florida, it's a different type of energy. When I tell you I've seen the biggest comics bombing, side splitters, I've seen everything else. I've seen like rough shows. And then me and BT were sitting out there and I was like, oh, that's Detroit. And you were sitting there just boom, boom. And I was like, this is stuff I never heard before. This is from the B-sides.
Side splitters.
I said, whoa, this is Michael. This is the Michael album. I said, this is the
no Jason Malachi.
I was like, man, where did this come? And then just knowing how witty it was. And then when we would cross over the bridge, and I was like, no, this is a different Troy I haven't seen. So I love to see the growth. And I tell you all the time, a lot of comics have different things. I said, but you're self-made. And I think we talk about different syndromes. I was like, people, when I say people tell me about you, they're just like, yo, your boy Troy, man. Your boy Troy freaking selling out. Your boy Troy doing this. And it's an atonement to you that you found you. And then when I meet your fans, they love you. I'm talking about, you make these big girls feel like they skinny. They were sitting there. I was like, this girl, we were coming out there. It's like Troy proposed to me. I said, what? I was like, what? Like you got down and proposed to somebody, and it was like you made this girl's night. And I was like, man. So I love the fact that people around the world get to see the Troy that we know, the silly Troy, the anime, everything else, and it's just like I saw a chick bring you mustard one time.
She did from Germany.
A chick from Germany, and I seen people just genuinely see themselves in you, and I think that's the best part because a lot of comics are trying to figure out the algorithm. A lot of comics are trying to figure out their pilot, but it's like you figured out a base. You figured out.
You helped me understand who I was. I remember when I first started going on tour, and it was a rough time in my life because I was going through a breakup, and there's a lot of adjustments when you start to gain internet notoriety and you're selling out all these places. There's a lot of things going through your head, and I was losing friends, and I was whatever. And I always tell people Jared Waters is my pastor, and we were downstairs talking at Broadway, and I was telling you about a friend of mine who's no longer a friend of mine because of a stunt. In we were doing a show in North Carolina, and she took a heckler's side. Like, a heckler was heckling me and then got kicked out, and she followed the heckler out to apologize to them, and then came into the room and berated me in front of the staff and friends. And I sort of Tony Soprano'd her. I was like, I'm the boss of this fucking family. No more of this, are you fat shit? All right, this is a business, not a Jack LaLanne. And I was telling you this story, and you said, you need to understand something, Troy. You're one of the most genuine people I know, but a lot of people in your life aren't going to understand that there's Troy Bond and there's the Troy Bond that you've become, which is still the same person, as you explained to me, but they're holding, they think that they could
holding on to the old version of you.
That's what it is, and I'll still bow to that. And when you taught me that, my life got separated into 2 chapters because I learned for the first time what my self-worth was, and I'm still learning, but I learned to have an indication of it. And you taught me how to not be passive and more, not aggressive, but assertive. And
we call it respect the rank. Like in the military, this is a quick story. I never understood my dad's rank until I went to his job. I was working, and when he walked in the room, everybody stood up, and I was like, holy yeah. And I was like, oh, this guy goes to my church. Why is he standing up to my dad? And he's like, because he's the boss here. He's the boss here, and it's the rank. So it's like, it don't matter how many stripes you put on.
That's right.
You're the headliner. That green room deserves to be you, and it's a rank you got to respect. It doesn't even matter. Maybe I might not think this comic might be this, but in this moment, this is the order. You're the feature act. You better get them shirts popping and you better get them shirts selling. And that's the thing. It's about humility. Like I used to see like a big
you possess so much of it, and so few people in show business
a headliner. I was like, hey, can I sell this merch for you? Like, why? I was like, do you need help? I'm here to. You're the headliner. You're the draw.
Yeah, your humility is your strength.
You. What the fuck you brought me here? I'm
not
here to.
What were you saying about it? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Your humility.
But that's the humble. A lot of people don't understand the rank. Sometimes you're looking at yourself like, no, this rank has been bestowed on you.
Bestowed. That's the thing. I think those people out there paid to have this night out. I feel like a robbery every time I'm done with the show.
Troy.
They paid to see me. I'm going to give them a show.
Says 20 minutes. You do 20.
Right.
Get your ratings off stage.
And I always, every time I do a show in New York, and there's a lot I have lined up for you now, but every time I do a show in New York, who do I have be the guy on right before me? Motherfucking Jared motherfucking Waters. Yeah. Black dude on a horse.
Black dude on a horse. That's how we ride, man.
Whenever I talk to other people about you, I feel like Obi-Wan, where I'm like, he was the best comedian on any show you would put him on, and a cunning warrior. He was a good friend.
My favorite quote is Joe Jackson. I don't know if you remember this quote where they're interviewing Joe Jackson about who's the best singer in his family. And he said Jermaine.
He said Jermaine Williams.
And they're like, what the frick? And he goes, Michael outworked him. And that's my thing, dog.
Talent beats hard work beats talent every time. Talent don't beat hard work. You taught me work ethic. You taught me friendship. You taught me self-worth. And most importantly, you taught me what it's like to have one black friend. And I love you to death. Is there anything you want to plug?
Like real.
You got your shows, anything? IG, anything, whatever you got.
If you're on Instagram, it's Mr. Waters. If you're on TikTok, Mr. Waters. If you're on anything else, it's Mr. Waters. If you see a black dude on the horse, that's me.
At any time in your life, if you see a black dude on the horse, it's Jared.
Me. There's a lot of Jared Waters out there, too. It's a whole bunch of just white ones. And
there's only one I care about.
And, thank you. And if you're ever in Astoria Park on Wednesdays, that's my favorite show, is Astoria Park. Come to the park, free show. Best show this
There's no ice there this time of year, so there's benches. Go have a great time.
The pool is open now.
Yeah, the pool's open. The city skyline is beautiful. You pull up at 5. When do you do it? 5:30.
7:30.
7:30. Perfect time of night. The sun's going down. You can watch the sunset over the bridge. It's perfect climate. I recommend everybody go out there. And again,
hearts to all the bonders.
All the Troy Scouts.
Oh, that's what you call them?
That's what they call. They started calling themselves that, and then I was like, "That's your name, like Mr. Waters." Thank you for joining the Troy Scouts. I love you like you were my own. And I got a picture for us to take that's gonna emulate it. But thank you for coming through. I love you, man.
I appreciate you.
Jared Waters, ladies and gentlemen. Please check his stuff out at Mr. Waters. Thank you for listening to Bonding. I also have another podcast, Secret Identity, with Brent Birnbaum, Will Diamond, and Slater Harrison, which is also available on Apple Podcasts. Please be sure to check out Tori's Stupid Podcast. It's literally what it's called. It's not me demeaning it, I promise. If you please make sure, if you're listening to this, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube at Bonding Pod. It's also available on Apple and Spotify. Thank you very much for listening. Have I said thank you enough? Am I insecure? Huh? Have I said thank you enough, Henry? Huh? Did I say thank you? How about go fuck yourself, huh? Go fuck yourself and I'll see you next week. All right?